Kristen Cabot, welcome. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
So after reading Lisa Miller's article, I asked my team to reach out to you, and you were hesitant, but then we had a conversation on Zoom, and you decided that this would be the only on-camera interview that you're planning to give. Why did you decide to be here today?
Yeah, first I want to thank you for having me. I was reluctant to come, but I'm really grateful to be here. For me, my mom always taught us silence is acceptance. I think I mentioned that in the article. And for me and my family, what happened was not okay. And I felt like by remaining silent, it was somehow accepting what had happened. And I really felt also there's a lot of people out there that experienced something similar that didn't either have the strength to come forward or were too traumatized or lost their lives due to some of the things I experienced. And I feel a sense of responsibility for those people to speak out and share what it's really like when people carelessly comment, forward, click, like, and the damage that it can really do.
So, yes, you and I spoke on Zoom. I said, first of all, before the story in the Times, I didn't know the story. I was like everybody else. I didn't watch it hundreds of times or even more than once, but I made the judgment that you had made a mistake and you're out with your boss. And I did not know the crucial part of that story that was left missing from all of the TikToks that were shared. I'm going to let you share that. So take us back to the night of the Coldplay concert and the decision to go to the Coldplay concert.
Yeah, it's a great question. I had been going through, I'll go a little bit before that, if that's okay.
Yes.
So maybe 4 or 6 weeks prior to the Coldplay concert, my husband and I had decided to separate and were living apart and planning for a divorce. And Andy Byron, my boss at the time, he and I had a very close working relationship. For anyone that's worked in tech in a high growth startup, they'll understand that the chief people officer and the CEO are partners. We work side by side around the clock. It was a high growth startup that was growing at 100% year over year. We were hiring like crazy. And so we were really in it together and spent a ton of time together. And it was about around the time that Andrew and I, my husband, had separated, and Andy, I have the same name, so forgive me, I'm trying to keep up here.
Yeah.
Andy and I had gone out to grab sandwiches during the workday, and he asked me, I seemed a little off, and he just said, "What's going on?" And I said, "Well, my husband and I are separating and planning a divorce." And he immediately let me know that he was in the exact same situation, that he and his wife were living apart, they were planning for a divorce, and it had been many years in the making. So that became like a really instant kind of point of connection for us. And over the next, few weeks to month, that was a place that was really great for me to be able to go to talk about what I was going through, and I was a good safe space for him. And I think probably my friends...
Did you both talk about what it was like going through this separation?
And that was where we started to build a bit of a stronger connection. And I was really surprised when he told me. We didn't talk a lot about our personal lives prior to that, so I didn't expect to hear that from him.
Right.
He had been married a long time, so I just assumed all was well. So leading up to the concert, like at that point, we started talking a lot more about personal things and kids and how it's going and all of that, in addition to the busy and frequent work conversations. And
were you having more lunches? Was it becoming...
Yes, we were. It just felt like a really familiar, like safe place to talk about what was going on. And it's so much easier when someone else is in it, in the same experience. We could share that. So we developed feelings for each other during that time.
Okay,
for sure.
Were you attracted to each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why, when people would say, oh, they didn't look like friends in the video, like that was the culmination point of feelings that had developed over the course of, 4 to 6 weeks, I would say.
Okay, so when we spoke over Zoom, you said that was the first time you all had done anything publicly. That's the first time you'd actually shared any kind of
physical
touch.
Yeah. Yeah, so what happened...
At the Coldplay concert, the first time I touched you?
Yes. I'll explain. I'm here to share what really happened. So
okay.
I know. There's a lot of context there. So I had friends that had gotten tickets to the show. They asked if I wanted to join. They had 2 extra seats. I never go out, so it's kind of a joke amongst my friends, let alone on a weeknight. I'm usually with my kids or I'm working. And I had just gone through a pretty tough period, and I was like, you know what? It's summer. It's a weeknight. Like, I'm going to go see. I love Coldplay. I'm going to go. Or I loved Coldplay, but that kind of got ruined for me. I'll be honest. Like, not the biggest fan anymore. It was like such a no-brainer to invite Andy. We when I say we would talk like 10 times a day, that was even before this connection started. It's just the nature of our job and our working relationship. Plus, we were, enjoying spending time together, and it just seemed like we've been.
I just want to be clear. What time had you spent together before?
Lunches at work.
So everything had been business up until the Coldplay concert.
Yes.
Whoa.
Absolutely. Though we'd had a lot of personal conversation and had acknowledged that we had feelings for each other.
Okay.
Also, it was becoming apparent to me that we were putting ourselves in a situation where it was going to get risky from a work standpoint. I mean, I reported to him. It's my role is to actually like be aware of those things happening at work and flagging when it might cause a problem.
So was there, I always say that there's a whisper and then there's a pebble and a brick and a brick. Was there a little whisper saying we should tell somebody or we should?
It was more than a whisper.
Okay,
it was
good.
like a real conversation where we sat down and said, like, we have to figure out a plan for this because these feelings are real. This wasn't like a fleeting thing. And we decided that we put kind of a plan together, but we wanted to propose to our board of directors that would change the reporting structure.
Didn't you tell me that you were thinking about going to the board, or you all were going to go to the board?
We ironically met probably 5 or 6 days before the concert. We had a lunch that was a lengthy lunch to talk about this and to make a plan. And
the plan was to go to the board.
To go to the board and let them know that we had developed feelings for one another and that we wanted to change.
And that it was consensual.
It was consensual, and which is an important point, 100%. And we wanted to propose a plan for what might work to make, take this reporting line out of the equation.
Meaning you reporting to him?
Meaning no longer reporting to him, but perhaps reporting to one of our investors, something like that.
All right, that makes sense.
Seemed like it made sense at the time.
Yeah.
It felt like the right thing to do. And then I got the invitation to Coldplay. I invited him to come. It was sort of a non-decision. It was just kind of like, hey, we got tickets. Do you want to come? And he's like, great, let's go. And I thought, we've kept it.
Why didn't you ask one of your girlfriends?
Well, I was already going with my 2 best friends who may or may not be in the audience right now.
Okay.
They were, one of them was already going, and the other one is the one that offered me the tickets.
Okay, yeah.
And he's the one I wanted to hang out with. We had a blast together.
Okay.
And we'd been keeping it together. Like, I could go to work and be normal. I can go to a concert and be normal until I couldn't, obviously. But it was just, it seemed like a fun plan.
Got it. So he said yes.
He said
obviously.
yes. Mm-hmm.
And this was the first time
socially.
You all had done something socially other than meeting for lunches and discussing business.
Or grabbing like drinks after work with colleagues and things like that. Yeah.
So you get to the concert and what happened?
Well, I was walking into the concert and my daughter messaged me and said, oh, it's so great that you and Andrew are both at Coldplay. So she let me know that my estranged husband was also at the concert.
So I think it's very important. This is what I did not know before the story, and y'all obviously didn't know either, that she was separated from her husband and that her boss was also separated or said he was separated from his wife. Did y'all know that? No. Okay. All right. Or that her husband was there. This is the thing. So you get texted from one of your children.
Yeah, my daughter was like, "This is so fun. Great." I was like, and in my mind I thought, well, is this going to be weird if he sees me with Andy? Like that crossed
or you
my
run
mind.
into him.
Yeah, if I run into him. But then I was like, I'm in Gillette Stadium. There's 55,000 people here. I'm probably not going to run into him. But it doesn't matter. I mean, that would have been better at the end of the day if I just run into him. But it's, he knows how closely Andy and I work together. He knows we got lunches and got drinks. It was fine.
So he knew that there was a relationship there.
Yes.
He
knows the nature of my work and the way I've shared desks with the CEOs I've worked with. Like, it's just a very close, and so it didn't matter to me.
Okay, I got to get to the moment.
You got to get there.
You all hadn't touched. That's what you said to us earlier. You hadn't even touched.
Well, we did that evening before we started to touch before it was on camera, but
Okay, but that was the first time you all had physically touched each other's
Correct.
Okay.
Other than like a, tap, when you're chatting with someone and you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what made you do it then?
I had a really big crush on him, Oprah.
Yeah.
And so did he. I mean, these were like really incredible feelings. And I don't know women that could relate to this, but I had been going through a really tough time. I was coming out of a separation, and it felt really good to get attention and affection from an awesome man. You know, that it felt
You're
good.
leaving out a key point here that you shared with me on the Zoom. High noons.
I would love to talk about the high noons.
Yeah.
Can we take a moment?
Look at Gail going, what is that? Gail has never drank anything other than what?
I like a good Shirley Temple.
Oh, she likes a good Shirley Temple. So she just looked at, I saw you, look, what is a high noons?
I want to talk about the high noons because
Yes.
that became a big topic on the internet for some reason. I told Lisa Miller in the New York Times article that, you know, I'd had a couple of high noons and we were dancing and we got swept up
All
in the
you
moment.
need is a couple.
I only had two. So
Well, I mean, a two that make you feel
They're-
like.
Well, that's
'cause Gail used to ask me all the time, I see you getting yourself all liquored up. What does it do for you?
yeah.
I'm not getting liquored up, Gail. It's just a vodka tonic, okay?
Right.
So it does
Liquored
make you, Gail, alcohol makes you feel a little looser.
Frisky.
Right.
Frisky. Not even frisky. It's just a little
easy-
looser.
Yeah, a little looser. And my only point in mentioning it to Lisa Miller, had I known what would have happened, that
Yeah.
you know, because suddenly I'm blaming it on alcohol, and suddenly none of that is true. I simply mentioned it to like set the tone of the vibe.
Yes,
like
I got
you're
it.
at a concert, it's summer, a couple high noons, you're dancing, you're having fun. Everybody, maybe except for you, Gail, has done that and knows what I mean. Like it's just an easy, like a fun feeling, and that was the vibe that we had, and that's why I shared it. And by the way, I think
Well,
high
Gail
noons-
would have said, do you have a lemonade?
Yeah.
And could you add a dash of cranberry juice? Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wild.
So a couple of high noons,
Yeah.
you're feeling really great, and
Yeah.
you're at a concert, and you love Coldplay, and everything's going well.
It felt really good.
Yes.
It also, I should note, it felt really anonymous. And I feel like I need to explain that too, because it didn't look that way on the video. Where we were was at the complete opposite end of Gillette Stadium from the stage. We were in an area called, I think it was called the Pavilion, but it's a big general, it's a sectioned off area where there's no seats. It's general admission in this section, and it holds about 250 people. So we were in that area, and we were kind of up at the front of near the railing. But we were with a group and with friends. So we were dancing and talking, and it was really dark, and we got very swept up, and it didn't feel in any way that we were risking being, and it wasn't even calculated where we thought to ourselves like, oh, no one's looking, let's like put our hands on each other. It wasn't that. It just was a natural.
Okay, so let's go to that moment
Yeah.
that we have all seen. Have you all seen it? Okay, let's go to the moment we've all seen. So you're swaying. I don't even remember the song. Do you?
Yes.
What was the song?
Yellow.
Okay. Look, that's Gail's.
Love yellow.
I used to love Yellow, Gail.
Yeah.
Yellow.
So you're swaying to the song, and then you suddenly see yourself on the Jumbotron. You turned around. He ducked. Okay, so you see yourself. Take us to that moment.
Yeah. That was a moment of total horror, is really the best way I can describe it. My immediate thought was, oh my God, my husband's in the building. He was there with someone else, and I knew that, and that was great and fine. But he and I were in the midst of our separation, incredibly amicable. Like to this day, he's been one of the biggest supporters of me through all of this.
Yeah.
He's an incredible man. And the last thing I wanted to do was embarrass him. And that was my first thought when I saw myself in that moment.
Isn't there
And-
an instance when you're looking at yourself on the Jumbotron? Because I remember Gail and I had gone to an event, Gail, Maria Shriver, and I, and for the Pope, and there's Gail on the. Remember, saw yourself and you said, "Who's that red-haired woman?" And I go, "That red-haired black woman? That would be you." And so, is there a moment when you say to yourself, "Oh my God, that's me"?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like a split second where it was like almost, I mean, to me, it's like surreal. I can't even really remember, but I do remember looking and being like, oh my God. Like, I said worse than that. I mean, in my head. But my initial thought was, oh my God, Andrew's here. And my second thought was, oh my God, I'm in the arms of my boss and I'm the head of HR. Like, this is a really bad look.
Yeah.
Everybody assumed I was horrified because it meant somehow I got busted having an affair. Like, that is not what was happening. I felt like those two reasons were big enough for me in that moment to be really horrified.
Did you even hear
No.
what was said
So I
later?
wanted to share that too. So we were all like dancing, and when there's music playing, you're talking, you're kind of whispering in people's ears or yelling in their ears. We were talking and with my friends too, and we didn't hear Chris Martin say we're going to pan the audience. Like, we never heard him warn that he was doing that, and we never heard him say they must be shy or they're having an affair. I had no idea he said that until like days later. Or the next day. I don't remember it was a blur after that night, but I didn't know that at all. I whipped around, like Oprah, if we were at a Celtics game and we got put on the Jumbotron, I'm going to whip around. I'm not a Jumbotron girl, even on my best days. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
So I would have probably done some version of that. But in that moment, I was just horrified at
And your first thought was Andrew, your husband.
and my job.
And your job.
Yeah. And
Okay.
and the irony of the whole thing, or the naivete of the whole thing, is the entire ride home, we were in an SUV with a group of us. All I was worried about was Andrew. I kept saying, maybe he left early, maybe he didn't see it. That was what I thought was the biggest problem I had on my hands.
Why were you worried if you were already separated?
Because we were in the middle of going through our divorce planning, and it was going really, we were doing it in a really amicable way.
He was there with somebody.
He was there with somebody, but Andrew comes from an incredibly private family in the Boston area, and I just knew in my head, like, the public embarrassment is not something that would have gone over well.
Okay, so your first thought was Andrew. What did you all do immediately afterwards? So you turned around and Andy Byron ducked, your boss at the time, ducked.
Yes.
And then did you all immediately leave the
So
Gillette?
he and I left the area, the general admission area behind that had like a bar area and some like tables set up.
Did you leave with your friends or did you?
No, he and I left the standing room area, went through the doors and sat down at one of those tables, and we're just like, what just happened? Okay, what is going to happen? And what happened?
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain. And that's when I was like, oh my God, Andrew, he was going through his head of what he was worried about. I was thinking about my stuff. And then it was really towards the end of the concert, and about the end of that song, I think my friends came through the door and they're like, let's just get out of here. And so we all left the stadium.
And what were they thinking?
They were just like, oh my God, I cannot believe this. This is like getting struck by lightning.
Yeah.
How on earth? And I can't believe that just happened to you. That's like the worst luck. And then we were in the elevator heading down, and a woman in the elevator was like, wait, was that you on the Jumbotron? And I was like, no. And then my friend Elena looked at me and was like, is that what we're saying? I said, like, we're saying no, that wasn't you? Like, what, should we huddle up on this? But we just didn't know we had no concept that this was
Okay, so you were worried about your husband who you're separating from.
Yes.
And the woman that he's there.
I wasn't really worried about that. I mean, I didn't want to embarrass him.
Okay, so
and I
you're
didn't want
worried
to
about your
derail
husband.
the
You're worried about
amicable-
your
Yeah.
husband that you are now separated
Yes.
from. Was he worried about anything?
No. You mean, do you mean?
Andy Byron.
Oh, yes.
What did he say he was worried about?
I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but I think, we live in that area. I think, he's going through his own separation and divorce. I think he's not looking to
And
embarrass.
he's your boss.
That was the other big, I mean, it's really bad in our roles to have been caught in that position.
Yeah.
And that was, we do live in the area. The company was based in New York, but we've both had 25 or so, 30 years in our career in that area. And
The one thing I want to share with you all, I've had only one other conversation with Kristen on Zoom prior to this interview a couple months ago now. And the one thing that I appreciated in that conversation, which you can share here, is that you kept saying, I made a mistake. Mm-hmm. It was a mistake. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't have been out with my boss, but it wasn't a mistake that I deserved to die for.
Correct.
It wasn't a mistake that I deserved to have people coming up to me on the street and saying I should die because of it. It wasn't a mistake that deserved people threatening me and threatening my children.
Right.
It was a mistake. So that's what you told me.
That's right.
Do you still feel that
Absolutely.
it was a mistake?
Absolutely. And I've been telling anyone that will listen, I own the poor decision that I made in that moment. And I've paid an unimaginable price for that.
Yeah.
I also, that was why I chose to leave my job, because I think I put the company in a position, given how viral and toxic this became, a position you can't come back from.
Okay, so let's go back to it.
Yeah.
So just walk us through it. You all leave. You're like, what just happened?
Yes.
And then what happened?
So we all piled into a SUV. We had
Yeah.
all ridden together, and there were 6 of us.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a pretty tense car ride home, but I was hand wringing over my Andrew seat. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
ridiculous looking at it now, what I was most worried about. Andy was pretty quiet in the car.
Yeah.
And our friends, nobody thought, it was like, oh, that was such bad luck. Like, hopefully no one really saw
Okay,
you.
so tell everybody, you get home and you're
Yeah.
thinking, we're going to tell the board tomorrow.
Yes.
We're going to go to the board and
Yes.
tell them.
Yes.
So you all didn't you
He
come
came
up with
to my apartment.
Yes.
Andy did.
Yes.
And we were like, we have to
a statement?
We have to talk to the board immediately.
Yeah. Did you come up with a statement?
No, we drafted an email together to send
That's
to the
what I mean,
board
yeah.
from both of us to say we need to speak very first thing in the morning. Most of our board, actually all but one, were on the West Coast, so we wanted to make sure they woke
Drafted
up.
an email to send to the board,
That's right.
and then you go home and you
Go to sleep.
go to sleep. And
Again, not
really and
thinking. Yeah.
and in the middle of the night,
In the middle of the night, I got a message from Andrew, my husband. I feel like I need to keep qualifying because they have
yes,
the
of
same
course,
name.
yeah.
And he sent me a text with a snapshot of the TikTok video, and said, you need to, basically, I don't remember the exact words, but it was like, Houston, we have a problem here, and he really wanted to get to me so I could get to my kids who were teenagers, before they woke up and got on their phones and saw it.
Right. So your teenagers are not his children.
Correct.
Yes, but your children have a great relationship with him.
Incredible.
Yeah, because you all had been married how many years?
Oh, less than 2 years.
Okay.
We met during COVID, and he immediately built an incredible bond with my kids, and
Okay.
they're very close still today.
Okay, so how did you find out that the video had blown up the internet?
I'm trying to remember. It's like such a wild. That next day was so hard.
So when Andrew calls you and says,
There's like, this is happening on TikTok. I'm not on any of those apps, so I didn't see it. I couldn't see it personally. I had no sense for it initially.
Yeah.
Personally, I've never had TikTok or anything like that. But he let me
but
know.
you didn't know what it was?
Yeah, and then in the morning by 7 or 8 a.m.
Can you all imagine this? Can you imagine?
My phone started, a lot of phone calls started coming in from my friends. All my close friends were just like, something's going on here. And I wish I could remember how long it took from being kind of a problem to like realizing it was.
No need to hit send to the board.
Yeah. Well, we did have a call with the board immediately. And they had already heard about it at that point. But they were actually really understanding, and we had a really good conversation about it. And they were very.
He resigned.
He hadn't resigned yet. He did that a few days later.
Okay. And then did they offer you? They wanted you to stay.
Yes.
They wanted you to
Yes,
stay.
yes, they
How are you
did.
going to stay?
Well, that's the problem. I mean, that was the conversation I had with them. Had it not gone so viral and gotten so toxic, I would have gone back in and taken the punch and stood up in front of the company and said, I'm a human. I made a really poor choice, but we're building something incredible, and like, let's get back to it. Mm-hmm. And hope that they would be okay with that. But that was not an option. I did not feel like I could go in and say, hey, everybody, like, do as I say, but not as I do. And I felt like it would put everybody in such a bad situation, and it just wasn't fair to the employees. I appreciated that the board was behind me, and I appreciated they did go through an HR investigation, and it yielded nothing. And I appreciated that, at least internally there, I got that support.
Yeah.
But it wasn't viable. It wasn't fair to ask the employees.
So why do you think that this went off like a bomb? Was it Chris Martin's comments in that moment that maybe you were having an affair? Mm-hmm. Was it the fact that Andy Byron ducked, or that you turned around? Was it that he was the CEO and you're the head of HR? What is it?
I think it was I've thought a lot about that. I think it was a whole combination. It was a combination of all of those things. I felt in the initial moments, I'm sure it was funny to people. I can appreciate that. I've certainly seen funny things online and forwarded them around and clicked on them. I just don't think people really stop and think about there's real humans behind this.
There's a life there.
And it is incredibly destructive. And I listen, I've seen funny things and sent them around too, probably not giving it a ton of thought before this happened. I'm thinking very differently now than I was. But I think people thought it was funny. I think our world is, news is a really sad thing to watch. I think we are constantly inundated with bad news,
Yeah,
and this
I've heard
seemed
some
funny.
people say that video seen 300 billion times by only 8 billion people on the planet was the thing that united people, that people were united in their judgment. And I feel bad for us as human beings that that's what we did to you.
Thank you.
We were all united in the judgment of whatever it is you were doing, you shouldn't have been doing it. And we could all actually agree on that without knowing the story behind
That's
the
right.
story. And I heard that there were people that advised you that everything would blow over in 3 days. Who the hell told you that?
I wish I could say, because you'd all be shocked, but it's a very prominent person in public relations that I spoke to that said to me, you have triggered such an avalanche of hate for whatever reason that people are not going to be open to hearing from you right now. They're not going to believe what you say. Your best bet is to stay quiet, keep your head down, and then let some time pass and then speak up. And I this is not my world. I don't know. And I really believed what she said. And I guess it makes sense. I could tell that there was so much hate. I thought maybe that is better.
Why do you think there was so much hate?
That's been one of the hardest things for me to reconcile because nobody knows me. Nobody that judged this knows me. So it wasn't me. It was, I think it was, listen, I think a lot of people have had not great interactions with HR. I think there's some piece of it that's like, stick it to the HR lady. Like, I get it. That's kind of funny. I think, it was incredibly cliche on every level, like the CEO and the chief people officer. And I think, I don't know. I just think people hurt people. And I think
Well, there's a lot of hurt people 300 billion times.
Yeah.
So the New York Times wrote that she's been called, quote, she's been called a slut, a homewrecker, a gold digger, a side piece, the usual tags for shaming women is what Lisa Miller wrote. And you told me that you believe that women are apt to, quote, eat each other alive, and that most of your criticism has actually come from other women, that other women are the only ones who dare to come up to your face and say horrible things.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That was for me, I think, other than obviously my concern for what my kids experienced, that was to me the most upsetting piece of all of this was I had no idea how unwell we are as a gender still. I think I was living in a really lovely, naive bubble in some ways where I have surrounded myself with, and am so fortunate to be surrounded by incredible women that have supported me, through thick and thin. I do the same for them. And I don't know women that tear each other down. That's not been my own experience. And at work, like I've been really intentional about the women that work with and for me, like bringing them along in their career, giving opportunity, mentoring and helping them. It's just not, it was such a shock to me. I think I was told that 90% of the online comments and hate came from women. Every single interaction I had in person, and there were many, were all women, like you said.
Since we had our conversation, I was thinking about this. And I say this, not just because Gail is here, but it's pretty publicly known that Gail went through a divorce and her husband had an affair. And Gail always says that there's a lot of members of that club. There's a lot of women who are a part of that club of with partners who betrayed them with other women. And I think that for a lot of women, you became the face of that. Do you all think that?
Yeah.
That you became the face of the woman who took my husband, the woman who would take my husband, the woman who, that's where the hate was
I agree
coming
with
from.
that.
And I also think that if you looked differently, you would have probably had another outcome. I think you are the blonde ideal, the girl next door, all of that. Am I being truthful here or what?
Yeah.
I think it's the whole package. It's not one
Yeah.
thing, it's everything.
I do think there was something people attached to me that triggered things within themselves. I don't think, now that I sit here, I don't think, they don't know me. It can't really be me, but it's something I represent. And I think that, I think about my own triggers and things that are like unhealed inside of me. I try to think of like, what makes me feel a certain way, or it's my own fears that are not quite healed. I think when I
So the question is, did he get the same kind of vitriol, Andy Byron, your boss? Were people coming up to him, for
No, not at all.
attacking him, attacking his
No,
children?
No.
Yeah.
And I mean, just thinking about, starting from the very beginning, every single part of my physical appearance was picked apart. There were stories written about jewelry I was wearing and who bought it for me and how much it cost, when one of my best friends is a jewelry designer and I've bought everything for myself that she made me. And it's, my hairdresser somebody found, and that turned into a whole thing where she was dragged for giving me crappy highlights. And she got lit up for that. And just everything about how I looked, to how I was dressed, to how I behaved, to the sleeping my way to the top, to the gold digger, to this, all the words that Lisa used, the husband stealer. Which, by the way, that expression really bugs me. And I'm not trying to make light, obviously, of adultery. It's not that, but this notion of women stealing men. Like, I would walk in and duct tape and zip tie a guy and, like, unwittingly drag him out and steal. Mm-hmm. Like, the man has no role in this. Mm-hmm. This is, and for me, like, I was the face of all of this. There was no one talking about Andy's hair, shirt, watch. There was no one questioning. I mean, maybe anyone here can correct me. I never read or heard anything about, wow, did he become a CEO by sleeping his way to the top? No. And that's all anyone would say about me. It was unfathomable that I might have achieved and worked and hustled and built a career I'm incredibly proud of. That was not on the table.
Your best friend, I heard, told you that these people hated you before they even knew anything about you. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's true? What do you think that is?
Yeah, I think that's what you touched on a few minutes ago. Yeah. I think I represented something for people that they were afraid of in that moment. And I can have empathy for that. I think if you're going to snap to a judgment, you're going to have... I don't have empathy for people snapping to a quick judgment and just assuming and using zero critical thinking skills. But I do have empathy, or I do have understanding for why that would trigger people. So I'm trying to...
Because you look like you look.
No, because I think, the way the story was narrated for me without my input was I'm, having an affair with my boss and we're running around and we're on the company credit card it's probably what a lot of women worry about when their husbands are out on work. I get that. Yeah. I can understand that.
Yeah. So you share custody of your two children with your first husband. Mm-hmm. And how has this impacted your children?
This is the tough one. It was a nightmare.
How old are your kids?
They're almost 15 and almost 17. Mm-hmm. So they're at an age where everything,
so they were 14 and 16 when this happened.
14 and 16. Mm-hmm. We're still in it. They're doing really well.
Tell us about the place you went someplace and your daughter said, "Mom, can we just leave?" Because...
Yeah, we were at the local pool. This was a few weeks after I decided. It was probably in later August when I felt like safe to... I tried to going out, tried to go out. My daughter and I went to the pool, big hat glasses, all the things. And a woman at the pool started taking our picture in a really not subtle way. Mm-hmm. And my daughter she just lost it. And she's like, "We need to just leave." And I was like, "I'm so sorry." I didn't, I was not in a position. It's funny, the version of me before this concert, I would have marched right up to her and grabbed her. I mean, I'm not a shrinking violet, mm-hmm. but I became, a different version of myself. And we packed up and left.
Do you think that you were taking on the guilt and shame that other people were trying to put on you?
Yes and no. I felt tremendous guilt for the effect it was having on my family, and I felt responsible for that. Mm-hmm. But I knew what really happened, and I didn't feel shame for something I didn't do. I wasn't questioning I knew the mistake I made. I was really clear on what that was, but I was also really clear that it doesn't deserve the treatment that I got. It doesn't deserve, being made to feel that you should die.
Can you share with us what those first hours, days, and then weeks were like? I mean, how low did you go?
It was dark. The first weekend after the concert, I rented an Airbnb and went up to the mountains in New Hampshire with my dog, thinking I was just going to let it blow over and come back. I really didn't understand, because I cut off all access to the internet and social media and everything. I went away thinking, it was sort of like the beginning of COVID when you're like, we'll close the office for the week and we'll see you in a week. And then you're like, see you in 2 years. It was sort of like that. I thought I'll just go and disappear for the weekend. But when I came back,
Do a self-care day.
I did. Yeah, I was like, I'm just going to regroup and relax and not.
And you
look
thought it would blow over in a few days, as
Yeah.
you had been told.
As I've been told.
Yes.
That definitely didn't happen. But I came back to my house that was a place that was really like my safe space, as
Yeah.
your home typically is. And it became a place that was as unsafe as any place could be because a local radio station gave out my address on the air. And for whatever reason, the whole world has access to my phone number. And I guess that I don't know how people do that. But so from that day I returned, there was paparazzi there for weeks. They wouldn't leave. I had people trespassing and looking in my windows. We had people doing drive-bys and yelling and honking. We had my phone.
With your children home.
Yes, with my children home. My phone was ringing around the clock and just vile text messages and voicemails. That's probably a couple days in when the death threats started, but they were also just perverse, disgusting messages. I got emails constantly.
Were you afraid? Were you scared?
I was terrified.
And your children were really scared because your children overheard you speaking to your mom.
They did, and they heard one of the death threats. My kids asked me not to spend too much time talking about them today, but I'm comfortable talking about portions of it, and that's one of them. They were terrified for me. They're really protective of me, but they were also really scared for what this meant for all of us. We're not used to we're really private. Like
when your kids are hearing that you're getting death threats, kids think we're going to lose our mom.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what kids think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
Kids think we're going to lose our mom.
Yeah.
Then they have to now be afraid for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And, I've been a single mom for a while, and they, I think, already lean in to taking care of me more than I'd like them to do at their age. Like, I've got it, until this, I'm good, but they've always been, they're really, like, sweet and, empathic people. So they really, they're always kind of keeping an eye and making sure I'm okay. So this kind of elevated all of that.
In all this, I mean, I think a lot of people at this point have experienced online vitriol or people saying horrible things.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's something that just is said and it cuts you.
Yeah.
Especially if it's untrue. Did you have one of those moments where something was said and it just brought you to your knees or made you not want to get out of bed? Or
Yeah, it was, and there's actually a few, but the one that just came to mind first was the piece around sleeping my way to the top at work. Mm-hmm. I've worked in advertising and technology, which are really male-dominated industries, and I've spent my entire career fighting against the stereotype of, I must be sleeping with someone, or I've been so intentional about how I move through my work life. I've never been involved with anyone I've worked with before. I have been working since I was 13, and my mom had us out pretty legally working early on, and I never stopped. And my career was my identity, for better or worse. And this has been a wake-up call around that. But that was I had tremendous pride in what I had built. I love what I do, and for that to be a whole entire narrative to be written that takes that away from me, it just gutted me in a way that I can't explain. So it was really that one. I think, obviously being called all these horrible names it hurts. I have a friend that said to me recently, why would you take criticism from people you would not take advice from? And that really hit home for me. And I thought about it. I'm like, it's a great point. It's
a great point, but when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to feel that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it hurts. And it's easy to say, oh, ignore the trolls or ignore but it's really hard. It's really hard to ignore that. And it gets really personal.
Yeah. Did you have family that were there for you?
Yeah, my family's incredible. And I just, you asked earlier, how low did it get? And I do need to say that if I didn't have the family that I have and the friends that just wrapped a big warm blanket around me, I don't know that I would have made it through this. And had I been the 25-year-old version of myself, I would not be sitting here.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
It was really horrific.
Because, when you hear the number, I think it was you who told me the $300 billion. When you hear the 300, how is that even possible?
And by the way, that doesn't include social media. That's just the internet. How wild did it get on? I don't know how wild it got on social, but I think it was wilder than just the different tabloid websites. But that $300 billion is on the websites alone.
Yeah.
It's really disturbing.
And so, how did you get your children through it? When you become the meme, And everybody knows it's your mom?
Yeah.
How did you get them through that?
It was tough. I mean, we had a lot of conversation in the beginning, though. I mean, I was not momming to the best of my abilities. I was pretty broken down. We had for better or worse, we had a lot of family visiting last summer. I had a lot of people staying at my house, my brother and his family, and a lot of guests. So I tried to kind of pivot to just like life as usual as best I could after maybe the first month. And we tried to just get back to it, like go to the beach, like try to do some normal things. It was hard because people were not shy to come up to me in front of my kids. And I had a group of women that I was at my son's, where he works. He works at a surf shop at the beach near our house. And a group of women surrounded my car and in front of my son and started to, harass me verbally and kind of make it hard for me to move my car away from where they were. And it was hard to explain that to my kids. They were really lucky to have their peers show up for them in a really supportive way, but they were struck by how horrific grown-ups were acting. And that's a really hard thing for me to explain to kids that, why, because I didn't even
Did they even understand why? Because how do you explain to them why the people are hating you so much?
Right. I tried to explain to them kind of what you described. Like, I think I'm representative of something that touches on a lot of fear in people. I didn't know. I was trying to figure it out myself. And I wish I could have showed up for them in better ways than I did, but I did the best I could do in those moments. It was really hard. Going back to school for them was really hard. They didn't want me on their campuses for the first semester or trimester. So I missed, I didn't go to games. I didn't go to parent conferences. I couldn't go to parents' weekend at my son's school. But the schools were wonderful. I worked with them closely to make sure the kids were supported. And like I said, their friends were great.
Do you still talk to Andy Byron, your former boss?
No, I ended communication with Andy in mid-fall. There was a big miss on honesty and integrity. He wasn't the person he represented himself to be to me, and lying is not a non-negotiable for me.
What does that mean, actually?
It means he missed the mark on being as honest as he could have been with me. And at the end of the day, Oprah, I was the one left
Meaning
holding.
he wasn't separated? Because what you're implying to me, what I'm hearing, is that he really wasn't separated. Is that what you're trying to say?
I want to be really careful because the world spoke for me and on my behalf, and I don't want to do that to somebody else in their family. I don't feel comfortable. But I will say, a lot of what was represented to me was not true.
Okay.
I also want to say that being left...
But will you verify again, as you said to us earlier, that he had told you, when you told him you were separated, he had said to you he's going through the same
unequivocally.
thing? Okay.
Unequivocally.
So you believed when you were standing with him at the Coldplay concert that he was separated?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Zero doubt. Okay. But I was left holding the bag, and I don't, being the one that was attacked for this with, he's remained silent. To me, that's not a quality that I would look for in a friend or a partner or a boss. So we have no relationship now.
What would you have wanted him to do or say?
I mean, the entire trajectory of this would have changed if he would have just made a quick statement to say, my wife and I were separated at the time of the concert, just like my husband did. But it didn't matter when, it was great that Andrew did that, but it also, I was still left with, the tone changed a little bit. Okay, so she was separated, but he wasn't, so she's still a homewrecker.
Okay, one moment and one split-second decision can change the trajectory of anybody's life. Why do you, I'm always, whenever something particularly this big happens, I say, what are you trying to teach me, God?
I know.
You didn't have to use this big a lesson.
Yeah.
I could have gotten with something smaller.
Yeah.
Have you looked at this in the bigger picture of your life? Why did this show up in your life this way? And what is it here to teach you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the million-dollar question. I think about that every single day. And I do believe, I got knocked off my course for a reason. There's something to learn here. And there's bits and pieces that are coming into the light for me. I'm really understanding, and I had no concept of this, how when something goes this viral, how the technology companies are benefiting from this, and how we don't know that when we are forwarding and liking and clicking, we are putting billions of dollars in their pockets.
You're just creating an algorithm.
And creating an algorithm that feeds it. And the more pain someone like me is in, the more money they're going to make. And it fuels it and feeds it. And I think there's accountability there that needs to be looked at. I think I'm heartbroken at how women are treating other women. Like I want to, one thing I don't know the answer to yet, but is like, how can my experience turn into something positive to keep that conversation alive and try to figure out, like, why are we doing this to each other? We're so much stronger together. Why are we eating each other alive? And holding each other back. And why do we take such joy in seeing other people suffer?
Yeah.
It's really scary.
It's so interesting. Once you've been through something like this, when you see somebody else going through it, it creates an empathetic moment for you to want to reach out and say,
That's right.
I know what that's like. Or
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I did that. I reached out to a family. There was a girl who was, I don't know if you heard about this, she was 4 years old, receiving zillions of death threats because she was helping her dad, who's a radio personality, pick out football teams. And she started to miss the mark on the choices, and people started threatening her life because she was screwing up their gambling. Publicly, they were threatening this 4-year-old girl, and I reached out to her family, and they were lovely. And I mean, it's so scary what they're going through. I mean, it's just, it's happening all the time.
It's also, my producer said that Daryl Hannah recently released a statement about what was going on in the Kennedy love story.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I wanted to share a quote if I could from that. If you haven't read her essay in the New York Times this past week, it's a beautifully written piece, but it struck me deeply. And there was a part where she talks about how Jackie Onassis used to say to her, like, there's going to be horrible things in the news. It's going to,
because Daryl Hannah was dating
John F. Kennedy Jr. And Jackie O said, people are going to write horrible things about you, but don't worry about it. It'll be lining a bird cage tomorrow, and people will, the newspapers will be lining bird cages. Don't worry. And she wrote, and I quote, this was from on the 6th of March. In the digital age, stories do not disappear. Yesterday's news is not tossed out with the morning paper, and lies live online forever. They are archived, streamed, clipped, memed, and resurfaced endlessly. A dramatized portrayal can become, for millions of viewers, the definitive version of a real person's life.
They think that's history.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's exactly, I wish I knew Daryl Hannah so I could give her a huge hug, but what she wrote about was encapsulated my experience to a T.
Yeah. So where are you now in the healing process for you and for your family? You're supporting yourself. You're supporting your children. Have you started to look for work again? Has Andy Byron, I hear, has gotten offers from other places?
Lots of interest.
And
I think he has the luxury of staying silent, and he can go back to work when he's ready. I don't. I have to remind myself I'm not on trial, but I have to, in order for me to get back on my feet, I have to come out and explain. And I think that's a stark difference between the man and the woman in this situation. I have to explain and justify. And I feel like people, when I speak up, they think I'm trying to be famous. If I don't speak, I must be guilty. So I'm trying to figure out the right balance there. And for me, I'm raising my kids alone. I'm financially responsible for my kids alone, and I need to get back to work.
Yeah, because people are going to criticize you for it. Like, why are you talking?
Yeah, if I talk, I'm trying to prolong my 15 minutes of fame. If I'm not talking,
Yeah. So again, you decided to talk because
I felt, like I said in the beginning, like I can't stay silent and accept what has happened. And I do feel like it's important that people understand the real story, and also how harmful it is to just make assumptions and judge and feed and fuel something that created this narrative.
But you're so right. I knew that Andrew, your husband, that you're getting a divorce from, had made a statement saying that you all were separated at the time. But you're right. We never heard from Andy Byron. And if Andy Byron had done that, it would have changed everything I think. Yes.
That's right. That's right.
Don't y'all think so? Everybody would have thought, oh, they're both separated. Okay. Still her boss, still HR, still not
great.
good.
But a lot less interesting to the general public, I think.
Yeah, a lot.
And I do think, Chris Martin being a celebrity and that adding to it, I think helped with this, this thing going viral for sure. I think when you bring a celebrity into the mix with private people, I think it gives it more.
Yeah. And before we go, I said to you backstage, which I do with all interviews that are important. All interviews are important, but not as important as you wanting to make this statement here. I always ask people before every show, and I've been doing this since 1989, actually. I ask people before we go out, what is your intention? Because I want you to be able to fulfill exactly the reason that you came.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you came. I'm glad that you were willing to have your first, and you say only, interview with me. But most important, I want you to be able to say and fully not get home and say, oh, I should have said, or, oh, she didn't ask me. What is it you feel that you need to say or that you want people to know before we leave?
Yeah, I want people to know that I'm just a regular person. I'm a private person. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be famous, and I have no experience dealing with all of this. And I'm a mom that takes my kids to school and picks them up at practices and tries to juggle work and work and parenting. And I'm someone's daughter and sister and friend. And I really want people to understand what happened and what harm it does to real people's lives when you mindlessly fuel a fire like this. It's incredibly dangerous. And I'm so grateful I have the tools I have that I can sit here and talk about it, because so many people don't make it through it. And it's tragic. And I want people to, just be kind. And it sounds
especially
corny,
women to women. I know you were upset because you felt that there were other women who came out and should have been more supportive, you felt.
Yeah, I just think we're holding each other back. Like, let's stop. And I think it's a conversation that needs to be had over and over right now. Like, what is going on with us as a gender that we take such pleasure in holding each other back and hurting each other?
Yeah.
It's really
I
scary.
heard you were upset when there was a commercial that Gwyneth did. Gwyneth Paltrow, yeah.
Yeah, that was really disappointing to me. I felt like Gwyneth, someone whose company is founded on or framed around uplifting women and women's well-being, and she doesn't need the money. I don't know why she felt she needed to throw gas on the fire and get involved in all of this. It just felt really hypocritical to me and unnecessary. And I think, I don't want to let Ryan Reynolds off the hook either. He produced the ad, he created it, and his wife has just gone through something really similar over the last year. And I find it really kind of astounding that he thought this was a great way to lead,
Well, I will tell you that I called Gwyneth and I asked her about this. And so this isn't an official statement, but I did ask her if it was okay if I shared what she shared with me. And she said that she was told that you and Andy Byron had signed off on that commercial. And she said she wouldn't have done it if she hadn't heard that you had signed off on the commercial. Had you signed off on the commercial?
No.
Yeah.
And she communicated that to me as well.
Okay. Because she also said that she sent you an email and that she hadn't heard back from the email. So I just wanted to say that. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So when that commercial came out, did you feel that was just fuel on the fire?
Absolutely. I mean, it made everything in that moment and for, ensuing days or weeks, it made everything harder. It made it a lot harder for my kids too. I think when a celebrity gets involved like that, they're teenagers. Like I said, they know who she is. They know, and it just added to it in a way that was so unnecessary. But people have their own needs, and I can't speculate as to what those are. So it happened, and I can just...
And you're saying that you've been most disappointed by the reaction from other women.
That's been the biggest thing for me. And I don't know. I wish I could fix it. I wish I could understand. And honestly, I'd love to sit with some of these women that are so angry at me and really listen and try to understand what it is about me, or what would they like to have seen? I don't know. I'd love to have a real conversation about what it is that makes them so angry.
We can make that happen if you want to.
I really would love it. I'm being deadly serious on this. I have a real need to try to understand and have empathy for people that are hurting. And I'm feeling so much hurt that I can't fix it, but I would love to understand it. That would help me heal too, to better understand why people are so angry.
Yeah. Is there anybody here who had seen the video who was angry? Yes. So were you one of those angry people?
I wasn't angry at you. The first thing that came to my mind when I saw that video was everything that in darkness comes to light.
Yeah.
And I pass judgment, and I take ownership for that. It wasn't nice.
Yeah.
And it's not the type of example that I should make for my children. As a mom, I empathize with your plight tremendously, because unfortunately, children are the casualties of these. They take the brunt of a lot of this.
That's right.
Yeah.
But one thing that I think is really important, and I was the woman who was at home and who didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, after 17 years of marriage. So when I saw that, it really hit home.
Yeah.
But the most important thing that I've learned through my journey is that the only person that can define who I am is me.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really true. But I also, as a person who is, throughout the internet, people say horrible things,
There's no need
horrible,
for that.
horrible things all the time, and it is very, very different if you're up on a jumbotron that becomes the most watched video of the entire year.
It is, and there is that distinction. But
Yeah,
for a
that's a big
person who's
distinction.
going through a very public situation in their own microcosm, which is a jumbotron for them,
Yeah.
it's different. But again, and so my apologies for the judgment that I passed based on what I had read.
Because you didn't know that she was separated.
I didn't know that you were separated.
And you didn't
I
know that he was separated.
No, it was because that's not. I went by the
well,
narrative.
that's a major factor.
But irrespective of that, I would have never, ever, ever said something mean or wished death upon. Like that's just unacceptable.
But
There's
yeah,
no
I think
need
that
for that.
this is. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you so much for being willing to admit that you were in judgment, because the whole world was actually. And I would have to say that in this moment, I think it's really important for we as the human species to look at how we are participating in the comments and the global discussions, because does a person deserve death threats because they made a mistake? Think of all the mistakes we've made in our lives. Think of all the things you wish had not been seen, or you wish you hadn't have done that or said that or whatever. And it gets, replicated 300 billion times. And now people are threatening your life and the life of your children. They're parked outside your house and your number is all over the world. I mean, just think about that for a moment. Yeah. I am
Yeah.
really sorry that you had to go through that.
Thank you. Thank you for
I'm really
allowing
sorry
me to
that you
talk
had
about it.
go- And I know it took a lot for you to do this today.
I do have to say, if I can interrupt, and I'm sorry,
Yeah.
at the center of the trauma for me is how women have treated me. And it was really scary to come here and sit in the center of a room full of primarily women, just kind of looking at me like, this is really, really terrifying.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I do feel a lot of warmth in the room. So I want to thank the people here. It was almost, I couldn't do it because of the audience.
And you still said yes.
Well, my daughter told me yesterday morning when I dropped her at school, and I was like, I'm so nervous. And she's like, Mom, this will be like therapy for you. You can do it. And I was like, oh, thank you. But
Yeah.
it does feel good.
Well, it does feel good.
It does feel good.
So I thank you for allowing me to
Thank
be
you.
your first interview.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For sharing this. Thank you, those of you who are watching. I'll see you next time. Go well, everybody. Go well. Good job.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job. Good job. Good job. Well done. Well done. Well done. Well done. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Yes, you can take our picture now. Yeah, you can take our picture now. Yeah.
Kristen, I hope you'll like Coldplay again, because honest to God.
Oh, my God.
Chris
I don't
Martin,
know.
honestly, he's one of the most empathetic people. And if he had known, he never would have done that. The problem is, you both look like you had been busted.
I know.
And so when you look like you've been busted, those judgments weren't made out of nowhere. It's because both of you look, oh my God, we've been caught. And if both,
And we have, but just not for what he
not
said.
for what you thought.
And you do want to work again,
I'm
right?
dying to go. I'm so bored. I said to Gail, I have so much gas left in the tank. I'm dying to get back to work.
So he's gotten job offers and you haven't. That's wow.
But I do just want to say, me sitting here, I was getting chills from you speaking. It really, honestly, hearing your perspective, seeing it on social media, seeing all these different things and people making their own narratives, you speaking out, I'm sure all the women in this room feel this way. After hearing your story, we empathize with you. It really does.
Thank you.
I'm like, wow.
Thank you.
Really told it.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Thank you.